Warm greetings from the high 10. It is Everyday Shenanigans, and thanks for joining me. This is live number 2. This is pertaining to the U.S. versus Robert Sylvester Kelly. As most of you know, Robert Kelly is facing a federal trial in Brooklyn, New York, and this is the set information. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you all are well out there. I'm a little late on the commentary this week pertaining to Robert Kelly. This information was uploaded just a little short while ago at 5:07 p.m. and the New York Times is the source. R. Kelly pressed victims to write letters absolving him. Prosecutors say many of Mr. Kelly's accusers say he pressured them to write letters that they said he was innocent of the sexual abuse that they now say he committed. Thank you all so much for joining me. 5 months after R. Kelly's 2019 arrest, federal agents searching a locked safe in a Chicago storage facility discovered a stack of the singer's personal papers and protective sleeves. Among them, a 7-page handwritten letter from a woman who began living with Mr. Kelly when she was 17. Calling Mr. Kelly a great man, the woman wrote, "At the age of 17, I never had sex with Robert Kelly," then proceeded to tick off a list of specific acts that she said she had not participated in with the R&B superstar. But less than 2 years later, when the woman who had written the letter testified under a pseudonym during Mr. Kelly's federal trial in Brooklyn, she said she had experienced coerced and recorded sexual encounters with the singer starting when she was 17. He hit her often, she said, and forced her to abort a pregnancy. The letters that investigators found, she said, had been filled with lies written under pressure from Mr. Kelly in an effort to conceal his abuse. Again and again during Mr. Kelly's trial in Brooklyn, women have accused him of abuse, have shared the same curious detail. While they were sexually involved with the singer, they have testified he had them prepare letters that appeared designed to exonerate him from precisely the accusations they are now leveling against him. Mr. Kelly, who has been trailed by sexual misconduct accusations for years, appeared to be attempting to ward off prosecution or laying the foundation for an eventual defense. Yes, he did. Instead, the letters have been presented by prosecutors as evidence of coercion and manipulation that even suggests he long knew his activities could land him behind bars. Every letter introduced by prosecutors at trial came from Mr. Kelly's own collection, discovered in the storage facility and his Chicago apartment, signed by women who now are at the heart of the case against him. One letter reads as follows: "Robert, I also did something bogus, just in case you caught me stealing and let me go. I decided I would spank myself really hard until I had bruises on me and was going to blackmail you and say you did it to protect myself. And I don't want to be thinking like that because that's exactly what my mom and dad is doing to you right now. So I hope one day you can forgive me." That is a brief inscription from a letter. And it says that the said woman testified under a pseudonym, said Mr. Kelly pressured her to write false letters exonerating him. Such letters are not unheard of in cases involving persistent sexual abuse. The abusive Nixon's sex code also kept letters from women whom its leader, Keith Raniere, called his slaves, letters that were then used to force compliance and potentially discredit women if they spoke out. Maura Penza, the lead prosecutor on Mr. Raniere's case, which was heard in the same courthouse in 2019, said that while such letters are created by some predators with the intention of being used as a strong defense, prosecutors can easily turn that goal on its head, using them to demonstrate darker intentions. These letters succeed in acting as measures of coercive control, but they fail to undermine victims' credibility at trial, Ms. Penza said. Juries see through these letters, especially when the prosecutors and witnesses provide context for the circumstances in which the letters originally came to be written. Writing letters for Mr. Kelly was so routine, the women who had testified under a pseudonym told the jury that Mr. Kelly would say it was time for us to write letters, and his live-in girlfriends would quickly set up pen to paper. She said Mr. Kelly told her they were to basically exploit us to protect him, and that one of his lawyers had suggested the writing exercise because of his past. In 2008, Mr. Kelly stood trial in a child pornography case in Chicago in which he was accused of urinating on a young girl and recording it, but he was acquitted after the young girl and her immediate family declined to testify. The singer, whose full name is, let me read that again. Okay, so we know about the pornography charge, in 2008. And yes, he was acquitted after the young girl and her immediate family declined to testify. So we have to ask ourselves, why? Why did you decline? The singer, whose full name is Robert Sylvester Kelly, now faces charges regarding his sexual encounters with women and girls in several states. In Brooklyn, he is charged with 1 count of racketeering and 8 violations of an anti-sex trafficking law known as the Mann Act. The federal case, which will include 45 witnesses by its expected conclusion on Friday is grounded by testimonies from 5 women, as well as additional evidence related to his 1994 marriage to Aaliyah, who was then 15. A slew of additional accusers whose experiences are included from the charges have also testified. Mr. Kelly's defense team plans to call its own witnesses on Monday. The living girlfriends were all routinely directed to write new rounds of letters, about 4 to 5 each. The woman who testified under a pseudonym said, and written as though we had already left and were trying to get back to him. She said she would write the letters with Mr. Kelly and the other girlfriends hovering nearby. He wanted us to include letters saying that he had stolen money, that we had stolen money from him, she said, that we had stolen watches from him, that we had been molested by family members, that we had been abused and neglected by family members, and so forth. Ms. Penza, who now works as a partner at a private firm in New York, said that such false confessions further ensnare the people who write them. The knowledge that someone possesses the means to destroy you is a powerful coercive tool for predators, she said. Once someone has written a letter like that and handed it over, they have lost any ability to say no to whatever comes next without fear of serious harm to all aspects of their life. So far, 11 accusers have taken the stand to reflect on their interactions with Mr. Kelly, sometimes from decades earlier. In several cases, prosecutors have used their letters as evidence of the control that Mr. Kelly exerted over the people in his orbit, something one male accuser called being brainwashed. That accuser, who testified this week under the pseudonym Alex, said Mr. Kelly called him to his apartment at Trump Tower in 2019. Alex said that his encounters with the singer had continued for years, and he was asked to write the letter shortly after the release of damning documentary about Mr. Kelly. In Chicago, the singer asked him to write a letter claiming we had no sexual relationship, quote unquote. Alex said Mr. Kelly told me word for word what to write. The letter sometimes appeared to beggar belief. One woman wrote that she spanked herself really hard until she had bruises in an effort to blackmail Mr. Kelly. Another, who testified as Anna, claimed she had begged the singer to have sex with her and that he had given in only after much resisting. On the stand, Anna said she was so anguished by the letters Mr. Kelly made her write that once, sitting in his apartment at Trump Tower, she propped up her phone and recorded herself while writing a letter, saying she was doing it against her will, but Mr. Kelly later found and deleted the recording, she said. Even one of her letters appeared to betray an understanding of its implausibility. I know a lot of people reading this probably won't believe me, she wrote, and think R. Kelly made me write this. New York Times is a source for this said information. Thank you all for joining me. God bless all of you in the chat. If you want to donate to the channel, $ Big Angie 129 Cash App. Hello, everybody. Thank you. So right now we have testimony from this week. Another testimony that he forced letters, and they found these letters in a said apartment and storage facility, I guess neatly compacted together. So in my mind, it shows complicity on Mr. Kelly's part, that he forced these people to write letters, women and men. They complied, asked to stay in the fold with him for whatever sick reason, because we already know no decent person is going to ask you to write a letter. Why do I need you to write a letter if I am with you and you are with me? We are together as one. So I don't need you to write any letters to say that you've taken things from me, that your family is making you do these things for money, blah, blah, blah. Why would I need you to do that? There's no logical reason behind that. And anybody that believes this, you're crazy. You're crazy as he is. Because there's no need in you asking someone to write a letter to say, hey, don't say we did this act. Don't say, hey, I pulled your hair out, I beat you up. That makes no sense. If it's that bad, then I should want you to leave. Would I not? I could just tell you to get your things and go. I don't want you staying here. But that's why, this is all orchestrated. And the fact that they were all neatly together, you got all these different people signing letters saying they stole from you, they blackmailed you. Then why would I want you with me if you blackmailed me? Let's stay woke. This is just a barrage of foolishness on the part of a very, very sick man. Okay, I'm going to bring you more commentary pertaining to Robert Kelly. Thank you for joining me. That first source was New York Times. Okay. This is a article from just a few days ago, because today is just the 16th. So this was on the 13th uploaded. They worked for R. Kelly. This is what they saw. Oh, mercy. I don't know if they're going to let me in to read this. Okay. Now they're telling me I've reached my limit. Well, I'm going to give you a synopsis by NPR.org. Notebook, a month into R. Kelly's trial. Here's what's been like in the courtroom. This was uploaded on the 15th, so this is just a day ago. I'm going to try to skim through some of this. In this case, the government says the purpose of that enterprise was to prey upon young women and teenagers and lure them into sexual relationships. And that is what the federal trial is persisting of, pertaining to R. Kelly, that a dozen of witnesses for the prosecution, including 11 alleged victims, have appeared on the stand in this case, in which the R&B superstar stands accused of running a criminal enterprise, not unlike the mob, and that's where the racketeering charge comes in. In this case, the government says the purpose of that enterprise was to prey upon young women and teenagers and lure them into sexual relationships. Let's see. It says it seems exceedingly unlikely, however, that the trial will wrap up in the next few days, and that's without considering Kelly's second scheduled federal trial to take place in Chicago at some time in the near future. There, Kelly will face separate charges of child pornography and obstruction of justice. Kelly has pled not guilty to all charges across both federal indictments, and that is Chicago and Minnesota, from my understanding. Thank you all. Okay, the person says, I've attended the trial in Brooklyn on many days. It's been a strange experience so far, even by the standards of high-profile celebrity cases. Because of COVID protocols, journalists and the public have been assigned to overflow courtrooms to watch the proceedings via video and audio feeds. Every trial day, hours before the court even opens, R. Kelly supporters line up to snag hotly coveted seats in the overflow areas. Multiple disputes over seats and places in line have precipitated the intervention of U.S. Marshals and local police. After court ended on September 3rd, the NYPD arrested one male Kelly supporter who, according to police, was accused of sexually harassing another supporter. And I did watch some of that video that's on social media. In this video, I believe Mr. Kerry was interviewed, the brother who's supporting him, which I find that weird because he's the same one allegedly that said Mr. Kelly made a pass at him years ago. So now you got him in New York basically saying, well, he's my brother, I'm going to support him. So his viewpoints on his brother, supporting his brother, is very conflicted. But I did see the people arguing with each other. They were outside, and there was a little dining area where you could sit, like an outdoor seating area. I don't really know what they were arguing over because the video didn't really make any sense to me. But anyway, it says, in the meantime, we journalists covering the trial spend our days peering at tiny figures rendered so small on screen that even the sketch artists seated in the front row of our overflow courtroom have had considerable difficulty discerning participants' basic features. Is she wearing glasses? Does he have a shaved head, or is it just a weird shadow? Now, find that interesting because each day there are pictures uploaded, that are drawings of Mr. Kelly, and he does look different in each drawing. And one lady who's on the network, on The Wire, she has shown different things in videos to where R. Kelly does look different in each caption of a drawing of him. So it's kind of like, who's that guy up there sitting at the defense table? It's very interesting. It also says we can't see the jurors at all because, again, due to the coronavirus protocols, they are seated not in the traditional jury box, but instead spaced out in the gallery where public observers usually sit. Okay. As a result, we in the media have no idea how jurors are reacting to the testimony they're hearing. Is anyone snoozing through long stretches while experts are describing the particulars of cell phone data? When alleged victims burst into tears on the stand at several have, is anyone in the jury viscerally responding? Are jurors taking notes or just letting information wash over them? When the defense team brings up the names of Kelly's former peers and colleagues, for example, the late singer Whitney Houston, whose name has been raised repeatedly, do they seem starstruck? None of those kind of reactions will determine their eventual judgment of innocence or guilt, of course, but body language could provide insights to how they're feeling at any given time. It's also talking about the following the rules, day in and out, testimony from witnesses, both names in the indictment, and some who are alleged victims of uncharged crimes purportedly committed by Kelly has rung similarly throughout, and much of it has been very difficult to listen to. 6 alleged victims described being abused by Kelly while they were minors. Women have detailed being forced into unwanted sexual encounters, sometimes with other people, including strangers. Women have recounted alleged episodes of intense physical and sexual abuse for breaking one of his rules. Women have stated that Kelly had lied to them by claiming he had no STDs and finding out after the fact he had given them herpes. Both women and men who were minors or still teenagers when they met Mr. Kelly have said that either Kelly or one of his associates slipped them his phone number after seeing him somewhere at a show, at a mall, McDonald's, and wound up as one of his sexual partners. One woman said on the stand that Kelly made her have sex with another man as punishment for breaking his rules and also forced her to have an abortion. Another described being raped backstage at one of the singer's shows soon after meeting Mr. Kelly. Still another, Angela, not this Angela, a former backup dancer for Kelly and a backup singer for Kelly's late protege Aaliyah, said in testimony Monday that she witnessed Kelly appearing to perform oral sex on Aaliyah when the singer was just 13 or 14 years old. Angela appeared in the docu-series Surviving R. Kelly, but did not make accusations of her own there. On the stand, however, she said that she too was sexually abused by Kelly. Zombie-ish. Also on Monday, a man who went by Alex in court, but who also was referred in other testimony by the nickname Nephew, recounted being directed by Kelly to have sex with countless young women, as well as with Kelly himself, while Kelly recorded them all on video. Alex said he was not allowed to talk to the women or learn their names. He flatly described the women's demeanor during their sexual encounters as zombie-ish. This is crazy. Alex also said that he himself was brainwashed by Kelly. When asked by a prosecutor, why did you do what the defendant told you to do? Alex hung his head and said, I actually don't even know, quote unquote. Two experts recently told Insider that Kelly's alleged behavior fits that of a cult leader. Yes, Jim Jones. Shut up, Queen. According to Rick Ross, executive director of the Co-Education Institute, the women that are under his control or have been under his control, they're not functioning independently. He's engendered dependency upon himself to make value judgments, to critically think, to analyze things. It's incapacitated these women from being able to think for themselves. In contrast, the defense team has ultimately sought to characterize the women as groupies or argue that Kelly treated them lavishly, providing them with gifts, trips, spending sprees, while always opening doors for them and standing if they entered a room. Hello, everybody in the chat. Thank you for joining me. Was it MSG? Defense lawyer Deborah Koenig has repeatedly asked women to understand if they twerk at Kelly's shows or in his presence, as if dancing suggestively meant that they deserve alleged abuse. Koenig also tried to discredit the allegations of one woman, Sonia, who believes that she was drugged and sexually assaulted at Kelly's home after going there to interview him for a Utah radio station. And I spoke of this the other day. A young lady who was interning for a radio station tried to get an interview from him. He would not meet her at the station to do the interview. They tried unsuccessfully to get her to interview him there. He would not go, and he ended up allegedly getting her to fly out with him, I believe to Chicago or somewhere, to finally talk. And of course, naturally, that was a ruse. And that's the most interesting thing about R. Kelly. You were there in town and you could have went to the station to interview her, and then you would spend money to fly her out just to have sex with her. Well, you could have done that when you were in Utah. See, his mind it's interesting how Robert Kelly mindset is. Here's a man who's allegedly illiterate, but yet he has the fortitude to not interview in the city at the radio station, but then have somebody fly the person to and fro just to have sex with him when he could have done that in the city where he met the person. It's very strange. His mindset is very backwards. But he's a narcissist. So although he is allegedly illiterate, he has the basic knowledge of a narcissist. His behaviors of a narcissist. He's a sociopath. That is what he is, whether he can read or write or not. It's very strange. Well, it goes on to say Miss Sonia believes she was drugged and sexually assaulted at Kelly's home after going there for an interview for a Utah radio station. In her testimony, she said that she eaten a few bites of Chinese food shortly before she fell asleep. And this is being alleged that she was there for a while and hadn't eaten. He had locked her in a room and not fed her. So anybody has common sense enough to know if you go on several days without eating, your stomach will swell. So you may be very hungry, but 9 times out of 10, you won't be able to eat much. If you do, you'll probably end up regurgitating the said food. So his attorneys asked, was it MSG? Koenig asked her during cross-examination, implying that she got sick because she ingested monosodium glutamate, a common amino acid present present in everything from tomatoes to Cool Ranch Doritos. Activists say that anti-MSG sentiments are more about racism than about science. Kelly has a team of 4 lawyers, 2 of whom have never argued a federal trial before, and it often shows. Just during the defense opening statement, for example, Judge Donnelly interrupted defense lawyer Nicole Blank Becker to ask for a sidebar or sustain objections against her more than half a dozen times. My media colleagues who are full-time court reporters who also are covering the Kelly trial tell me this is very unusual, especially in such a high-profile case. On the other hand, the defense has pointed out inconsistencies between what one witness said on the stand during the trial and statements she made earlier. Another woman brought forward by the prosecution as a former girlfriend of Kelly's clearly did not want to testify. What she said on the stand didn't fit certain patterns laid out by other female witnesses, which served the defense's argument well. It's a bit misleading to call him a co-lyricist. Thank you all so much for joining me. Hold on one second. One second. Going to take a brief break. Hold on 1 second. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. I had to take a brief break, had to check on something. Sorry about that. Thank you all so much. Going to resume this. Sorry. Okay, where was I? Basically, I left off with one girl who didn't want to testify, excuse me, gave conflicting information, which, as they said, served the defense's argument well. It's a bit misleading to call him a co-lyricist. Meanwhile, outside of court, R. Kelly received a songwriting credit on Drake's new album. I'm sure most of you heard the controversy pertaining to the rapper Drake having, I guess, played something from Mr. Kelly onto his new project he's worked on. It said Drake's new album, Certified Lover Boy, which dropped earlier this month. The project has earned Drake a historic place on the Billboard charts with 9 out of top 10 songs on the Hot 100. Drake's TSU, currently charting at number 9, incorporates material from a song released by R. Kelly in 1998 called Half on a Baby. The Drake song includes a sample from a track on which Houston DJ OG Ron C raps over an orchestral passage from the Kelly song. In a recent Instagram comment, longtime Drake producer and collaborator Noah 40 Shabib wrote, "It, the R. Kelly sample, has no significance, no lyrics are present. R. Kelly's voice isn't even present, but if we wanted to use Ron C talking, we were forced to license it. Doesn't sit well with me, let me just say that. And I'm not here to defend Drake's lyrics, but I thought I would clear up that there is no actual R. Kelly present, and it's a bit misleading to call him a co-lyricist. Still, having worked in the business as long as Drake and Shabib have, they surely know how credits are parceled out for samples. And it's hard to imagine Drake and his collaborators wouldn't have foreseen any blowback." And that's true. Perhaps they didn't care. So why would it matter? Why would it matter? Maybe they just didn't care. Hey, how you doing? How you doing, Mr. Hunter? Good to hear from you. It's equally hard to fathom that they didn't realize the optics of utilizing an R. Kelly related sample in this particular moment in time, and that they didn't recognize that scandal sells. After Surviving R. Kelly first aired, streams of R. Kelly's music surged, even though he had been removed from Spotify's playlist the preceding year. Just as Aaliyah's name and the story of her marriage to Kelly at age 15 was coming up in court testimony, her uncle Barry Hankerson, who had managed both her and Kelly, and who owns the rights to much of her material, began to release many of her recordings to streaming services for the first time, to the dismay of Aaliyah's estate, including her mother. It was dues time. On Monday, a weeping Angela gave testimony about her own alleged abuse and that of Aaliyah. During one tour stop in 1992 or 93 in Washington, D.C., Angela said she and a group of other teenage girls, including Aaliyah, were instructed by Kelly to stay at the hotel while he and his male associates hit the town. Hungry, the girls went to a nearby 7-Eleven for food. While outside, they ran into Kelly, who was enraged. The punishment for their supposed infraction, Angela said, was to put out and have sex with him. It was dues time, she explained. Angela said that on this occasion, she refused him and suggested to Kelly that she would call her mother and let her family know what was going on. Kelly allegedly relented, saying he was just joking. Aaliyah's billboards have sprouted up around Manhattan in the past few weeks, hailing the arrival of her albums on streaming services, often just minutes after I leave court. I pass underneath the giant version of her towering over Canal Street, full of such promise, fire, and swagger. Some days it's been hard even to glance up at her, given the testimony that we've heard. This said information is by NPR.org. So, there's just a lot of craziness going on with R. Kelly. We get information last week that one of the accusers reached a $200,000 settlement with R. Kelly because she had contracted herpes from him, and he settled out of court with her. This said information was brought out the 3rd, a couple of weeks ago, and it's now being released, which I didn't know that. I don't think about that said situation. I'm trying to skim over some of this information. And this is information I believe I brought last week. It said she identified identified herself as Kate and said she was 27 when she met Kelly. She contracted herpes in 2001 and that Kelly was tight-lipped when she accused him. Kate said she settled with Kelly in 2004 and that the herpes diagnosis greatly affected her ability to enter future relationships. Kelly's lawyer, Deborah O'Connor, used this cross-examination to undercut earlier testimony that Kelly demanded that his girlfriends follow strict rules. These rules have included needing Kelly's permission to go to the bathroom, looking away from other men, and not talking about Kelly in his absence. Several witnesses have testified. Kate told Canick that Kelly behaved differently around her, letting her go to the bathroom when she wanted and not making her wait around for him for long periods. She also said she helped him write down song lyrics. Kelly was charged in a 9-count indictment describing his alleged mistreatment of 6 women and girls, including the late singer Aaliyah. Kate is not one of those women and girls who was among Kelly's accusers testifying for prosecutors. Known for songs such as I Can Believe I Can Fly, Bump and Grind, Kelly has faced sexual abuse accusations for nearly 2 decades. Okay, now know that he does have sex-related charges in Illinois and Minnesota. He has been jailed for more than 2 years. So one woman received a $200,000 settlement. And this probably is the same one that doesn't consider herself a victim by Mr. Kelly, because that was said also a couple of weeks ago. Hello, everybody in the chat. This is just some crazy stuff pertaining to Robert Kelly. Nonstop buffoonery, nonstop testimony. It just goes on and on and on. Men, women, boys. One he's calling nephew. I believe that's probably the same one that he considered a young brother. I don't know, because there's one that worked at McDonald's. And I think this guy might have been his friend that he brought along eventually, that they said he kept messing with over the years. So this last one that just testified by the name of Alex this week, they said he was just in his fold in 2019. Now, we all know that Mr. Kelly got arrested and put in jail permanently in 2019. So that leads us to think that Mr. Alex went to see Kelly at some point before he ended up being arrested permanently, detained rather. So what we have to ask ourselves, he's telling the court, I don't know why I had sex with R. Kelly. Well, that's crazy, because it's one thing, Mr. Kelly pursuing young girls, underage women, period. That's what a man's supposed to do, pursue a woman, if that's indeed what he likes. But we've now learned he likes men and women, boys and girls. So I found it odd a boy who likes girls would have sex with this man. Why would you have sex with a man and you don't like men? You can't tell me you were that desperate to become famous off of this man telling you he can get you into business, that you would allow him to perform fellatio on you when you are not attracted to men. So we're now talking about 2 separate men who have testified that they were young boys at the time of their sexual interaction with Robert Kelly. So whichever one was the fellatio incident, it probably doesn't even matter, because it all starts to run into each other. How in the world could you fix your face to do anything with him if you indeed like girls? It's not the same with a girl, because a girl likes a guy. He was a guy, Mr. Kelly. I'm trying to understand how a boy would go along with any sexual interaction with Mr. Kelly or any man if he indeed is not a homosexual or bisexual. That is the most interesting part of this saga of these men who were boys at the time, R. Kelly soliciting them, which we already knew why he would, because he was attracted to boys as well, men as well. And the fact that this last one stayed in the fold with R. Kelly over the years is very disturbing. Going in his company. So why would you continue to go in someone's company years later and you're now an adult if you were indeed not a homosexual man? It's very, very baffling behavior. And all this letter writing just shows that R. Kelly knew what he was doing. He did this so he would never have to hear it again, that somebody was suing him for abuse, this, that, rape, whatever. But in the end, it shows cause that you did know what you were doing. You knew that you were approaching these women at the time were children. You knew what you were doing. That was the purpose of you getting them to write the letters. It's very, very sickening behavior from a grown man. And that's the thing about it, is that Robert Kelly is 54 years of age. He was a grown man when he met these children. He was a legal adult. and he knew better, and he didn't have to pursue them. And all this mess about sometimes he asked her age, sometimes he didn't. The point is his preference is young girls. And it is believed that Aaliyah was 13 when she had her first sexual experience with Robert Kelly. Now we're hearing testimony that one of the girls watched him perform oral sex on her. What are we? This is crazy to me. Absolutely crazy. Hello, 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 hello. How you doing, Mr. Hunter? John, I need to talk to you. You need to holler at me on the IG because I need to talk to you. Big Sexy 71. I need to ask you something. Thank you very much. Yes, he wasn't picky. That's the thing with R. Kelly. He didn't even have a preference. All the girls, women are different in height, weight, facial structure, hair texture, all that. Big Sexy 71. Thank you. Yeah, I need to chat with you when I come off this live. Thanks. He never cared about how somebody looked. That's obvious. When you look at all the women over time, 30 years of this alleged seduction, luring of children, he never cared. Hello, Crystal. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? He never cared. And that's what's sad. All these women walking around, men too, if that was his preference as well. And I believe it is. So that's his preference as well, men and women. Why not pursue grown men and women? You're 27, well, get an 18-year-old, get a 19-year-old. You're 52, get an 18-year-old, get a 22-year-old. You have women that look young. You have women that's 30 that look young. They look like they're 20. So it's just BS. Yeah, anyone with a pulse. So he didn't care. Because when you look at all the women, some were light-skinned, some were dark-skinned. So he didn't have a preference. That's one thing we can say about this Negro. He didn't have a preference of the kitty cat. He did not care at all. And it's sad. Very, very sad. He made sure his victims were black. Yes, but there is one white victim, and that's the one that testified last week, Miss Calhoun. I believe she's a Caucasian lady, from my understanding. Because I remember there was a white woman that came out a few years ago talking about her relationship with him. And one of these women is saying basically that's testified who didn't want to, that her relationship was not like the other women. He didn't make her do this, make her do that, but she still sued him for giving her herpes. So R. Kelly's complicit. He knew what he was doing. I don't think he has any remorse about his behavior. I really don't think he cares. Period. I really don't think he cares. And that's the sad part about this story. Is that he doesn't care about his behavior. He has enjoyed using people to lure women. He's enjoyed getting the women in his fold, telling them how to look, how to act. Don't do this. Don't wear this. Don't look at men. Don't address men. Don't talk to the staff. Don't do this. And I blame the staff because you all are crazy. Why in the world would you go along with somebody telling you how to talk, how to act, and who you can speak and talk to? And then you're passing messages to children. You're passing messages to all these women. Then you're watching him mistreat them. Because at some point, you have to be an eyewitness to him mistreating these women, locking them in a room. Many have testified saying he didn't let them roam around the house. Okay, so you're a party to that. You went and knocked on the door and to see what a woman wants. You are a party to that. You escorted them in and out of a car or vehicle. You brought food to and fro. You're giving rides to airports, this place, that place, to store, Macy's, the Dollar General, whatever. You are complicit. You are also in with the mess. It's just very sad. Very, very sad. Checking some things out. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. It's very, very sad. Yes, he enjoyed all of this. And I believe those people enjoyed it because there's no way you can walk around somebody seeing them mistreat women and men. How could you watch somebody do that to another human being? And I don't care if they were a child or if they were an adult. That's just a way of treating people. I'm not going to sit by and be in the company of anybody mistreating somebody. I don't care if it was a woman abusing a man. If you're sitting here cursing somebody out just unjust or downing them. I don't want to be in your company. And I'm not going to be in the company of a man doing it to a woman. And if the woman is allowing it, I'm not going to be around her because I'm not going to be a party to that. You know, that's what's wrong with the world now. Everybody acts like they're scared to say something. You know, I don't believe in getting in people's business and trying to scold them and tell them what they should and shouldn't do. But I'm not going to subject myself to your foolishness just to say, you're my friend, you're my family member. I don't have to. And that's what's wrong with everybody. You're just allowing stuff to go on, being around drama. Well, what is the payoff? Like he told them they got to pay their dues. Well, it's time for him to pay his dues. You know, that's the thing about life. Sometimes you can get away with committing crimes and never get caught, never come up on charges, actually get arrested, bond out, go to court, charges get dropped, exonerated, found not guilty, acquitted, however it goes. But then one day your name comes back up in some new stuff, but it's some old stuff. And that's what's going on right here with Mr. Kelly. That maybe it's time for some payback, for some way back. I believe that's what's going on. Okay, you said I can't even hear your songs the same. Okay, I understand. Yes, people allowing it is worse, right? Because I'm trying to understand your mindset. What did you gain by watching him treat these women and men like this? And as I said, I still can't wrap my head around a boy having sex with R. Kelly. That's just despicable to me. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you so much, Mystical. Thank you so much. Thank you, Unknown. Thank you so much. 1996. Well, his behavior probably goes farther back than 96 because as I state, and I have said this on this channel and you've already heard, Robert Kelly is a victim of sexual abuse. So he was taught to be a predator. You see, that's what happens when you touch a child. You're teaching him or her to be a predator because you're touching somebody often that's now in them. That's not something they signed up for. And it's not fair to a child that he or she has to even be subjected to such horrendous behavior. And then sadly, they enact these things. They go out and exact these things while they're children. Now, fast forward, they are adults. And now the desire is insatiable. They desire messing with children, boy, girl, whichsoever. Temper issues, anger issues, different type of sexual acts involving bodily fluids. That has been mentioned in the week before. R. Kelly wanting the girls to put fecal matter in their mouth and hair and face or whatever. Why? It's bad enough you're sleeping with different women in the same house and gathering them up like they're trophies, and they are foolishly abiding by this and staying alone, not trying to break themselves free if they couldn't. Let's just say. Then you're bringing in boys, men. Then you want to introduce sex with all of the parties. Then you want them to pose, walk back and forth. Then you're abusing them. Thank you, Denise. Just doing all type of things that you shouldn't even be doing. And then you want to enter bodily fluids. Urinating on one, the one that's in that infamous video. A grown-ass man urinating on a 14-year-old child and having sex with her. And then now you fast forward, we get testimony that you asked one of the girls, ladies, to put fecal matter in their mouth and face. What the hell is wrong with you, Robert? You're sick. He should have gotten help. When he first realized he had an attraction to children, he should have gotten help. But this is a man who dropped out of high school for whatever reason, hung around high schools, luring young girls, probably boys too, when he was first up and coming in the business. And I've heard people say that they knew of Robert Kelly hanging outside of high schools. So anybody could use their better senses to say he was up to no good. Why are you hanging around a high school when you're a grown man? You had a chance to be a student. You should have stayed in school. You should have told somebody you couldn't read, you couldn't comprehend. So then we have to ask ourselves if he dropped out of high school late in life, such as 10th grade, 11th grade, then that means somebody just booted him along to school knowing he could not read. So the teachers, you're at fault too, the Chicago public schools. I'm going to call you out because you let Robert Kelly go through school knowing he couldn't read or write. So how did he excel to the next grade if he couldn't read or write? I always found that interesting. Hello, everybody. Yeah, it's a very demented mind. Well, and then we have people fighting in the courtroom, in the overflow rooms 2 weeks ago or so. Why? Why are you fighting in the courtroom with other people and supporters? Then we have a video that's gone viral of supporters arguing with each other. What the hell are you arguing for if you're both supporting R. Kelly? See, this is the nonsense I'm talking about. Enablers, people aiding him, groupies. You're no different than the girls. You accusing these women of being groupies, false allegations. Well, what do you look like, a grown person fighting over seats in an overflow room, fighting outside, cussing and fussing? His brother couldn't even give an interview for trying to watch to see what them fools were doing outside the courtroom. All this is barbaric. I made a comment about a certain case I talk about on here. I was telling Crystal, I said, these people are savages. Well, when I think of R. Kelly, he's grouped in there with them too. He's a savage as well. I wonder how as a parent you don't know that your kid don't know how to read and didn't. Well, that's interesting too, because they're saying his mother was a school teacher. So what I think is interesting is that she was poor as a school teacher. We do know that teachers didn't make up a lot of money, still don't make a lot of money. But maybe at some point she was able to move out of the area where she lived to better her children's lives. But here is a school teacher raising a child that can't read or write. Then he's being abused by a neighbor and a sister. Something's wrong with that picture of R. Kelly's upbringing. And it's deeper than just him being molested. There's negligence from his mother. Because my understanding from Mr. Carey, that when R. Kelly was growing up, he stayed in the house a lot. He was not a sociable child. So that means he had antisocial behavior early on. See, those things will form your identity. 1, he's not going outside to play with kids for whatever reason. 2, he's being molested by a male neighbor. 3, he's being molested by his sister. He had to be neglected by the mother for her to not notice her child can't read and write. So at what point did you not know your child couldn't read and write? So now we have to ask ourselves, could the other children read and write? How is this one child can't read and write? And what is the ages of the children? Who's the oldest? Because that will probably play a big part to why Robert Kelly had issues. Then we have to ask ourselves about the daughter. What would make her molest her baby brother? Because naturally, I believe she's older than Robert. So why was she touching her brother? So then that leads us to believe somebody was touching her. So who was touching the sister? Was somebody also touching Carrie? Because I believe Carrie mentioned that, yes, the male neighbor touched them. So now we have to ask ourselves, did the male neighbor touch the girl child? Or were other family members touching them and touching the girl child, the sister? And it's also believed that Robert Kelly's mother is a product of rape. Something salacious with a stepfather or something. Something about a man, some man, grandfather or somebody being her father. I can't get it right. It's been years since I heard this story. But see, that's why I said these things get passed down. This incest, abuse, it gets passed down, passed along. Well, obviously it wasn't good because he's turned into a straight up monster. And it's not going to stop until people start paying attention to their children. You have to watch your children. You have to watch their behavior. You have to watch how they act, how they talk, how you treat them. Because children turn out certain ways because of how you treat them. Not just outsiders doing things to them. How you talk to your kids, how you raise your kids, how you subject your children to certain ways, behaviors, tempers, language, all that matters. The environment you're raising them in. And I understand that people can't help where they live depending on their demographic and their pocketbook, basically. Their education and their pocketbook will have a lot to do with how your children turn out, too. Now, you could be raised in a good family, wholesome family, a family where you've been taught about God, Jesus, religious practices, and your child still turns out to be a menace, abusive, anger issues, drug addict, alcoholic, sexual sadist. Sometimes it's just a matter of toss up a coin. Well, he knew what he was doing. That's the whole point. Whether he could read or write, he was meticulous in dominating these women and men and using other people to help aid him. So he's very smart in that way. He's smart as a narcissist. He's smart as a user and grand manipulator. So all in all, Robert Kelly wasn't as dumb as people thought he was or is. Because in order for you to have a Jim Jones mentality, David Koresh mentality, Charles Manson mentality, you have to have something in you, such as charisma, gift of gab, confidence. You have to have some confidence to get people to do things for you, especially when it's illegal, it's salacious, it's felonious, it's ungodly. That's the set information. I want to thank you all for joining me. If you want to donate to the channel, $Beganji 129 Cash App. This is sad. All these allegations against this man. He also has children. You have to wonder what went on in the household of the children with Miss Drea. Did he physically or sexually abuse his children? You have to ask that, because he does have a propensity to abuse. So did he ever touch his own children? And a lot of people don't want to hear that, but there's no way you can sugarcoat that, because he likes kids. He's attracted to children. And it's perhaps because he was never a child. He stayed in the house for some reason. Something was going on with Robert Kelly as a child. And I really like to know the truth about his relationship with his mother. Where is his father? What was the situation between Robert Kelly's mother and biological father? What really happened with their relationship? What really happened in the house where he was raised with his mother? Why did Robert Kelly not go outside and play with children when he was a child? What made him stay inside to become a recluse to where he has antisocial behavior? And then at some point he lashes out and starts assaulting other children. Because see, that would be the most interesting thing if we find out he was assaulting children while he was still a child. And that's one tale I haven't heard of, that he molested other children while he was a child, because that will happen. And that's not a child's fault, because they're only acting out what's been done to them. And then most of you know that most men, rapists and serial killers, were molested as children. You hear that? Child molesters were abused as children. The reason why they had the propensity to abuse children, because they were once abused themselves. Well, animals, we know with serial killers, they like fire, they like abusing animals, they like torture, they like looking at the anatomy of a body being abused, tortured, mutilated. All the behaviors kind of run neck to neck. They're sick, and their thoughts are sick. And what's sad is you find out once these people are interviewed, they had these thoughts as children to mutilate animals and people, torture them, want to see what they look like. It's really sick, because those are things a child shouldn't even be thinking about. They should be thinking about enjoying themselves, having fun with their playmates, their family, not torturing animals. not torturing humans. Maybe it's something at birth in the womb. I don't know. Yes, because they're sociopaths. You can't have any empathy. But some of this behavior, I believe, is taught as well. You come around born to mean-spirited people, mean parents. Why would you be nice to somebody? Nobody was nice to you. Somebody talked down to you. You're going to grow up and be talking nice to others? Possibly, then maybe not. Thank you all so much for following the content. God bless all of you. I'm going to get out of here, but thank you for following the content. All information is in the description of the video that you need to check on. Joel, who are you speaking to? I don't know what y'all talking about. Anyway, thank you for following the content. I will bring you another video probably tomorrow then, since they're talking about the prosecution resting tomorrow. And that means the judge, she's allowing court to resume on Friday. So we will see what happens in court tomorrow. Hopefully they won't turn the damn courthouse down, because these people are really psychopaths out here. Oh, okay. Here, I'll drop it here, honey. This is for you. Hold on. Just a second. Thank you all so much. I will be back. I don't know if I'll come back on tonight, because I got to make a decision, because I've got to get up tomorrow, and I don't have a timeline of what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. But I may jump back on with some more information pertaining to commentary on that I've discussed on this channel. Thank you all for joining me. You all be careful, be safe, and thank you for my new mod, Mr. John Hunter. Thank you so much. I guess that's a surprise for you. Yes, one of my other new mods, she stays really, really busy. I don't know if she'll be able to mod, because she's stays very busy. But anyway, Mr. John Hunter is one of the new mods to Everyday Shenanigans. Thank you very much. God bless all of you. Stay safe. This is Everyday Shenanigans. Talk to you guys later.